All right, now we're actually about to jump into chapter 2 for budgeting. And what I have here, I'm showing you is the example that we had in class for doing budgeting. And you could actually find this on Blackboard in the course documents. You could actually get a hold of this this document. I'm actually going to see if I can transpose it into Blackboard. Into Excel. And what I have here is I've transferred it into the Excel document just by copying and pasting it. And what this is going to allow me to do is manipulate it and get our budget set for the upcoming year. Now what I'm going to do is just start extending things based on the information that we have here in the assignment in order to come up with a budget for the next year. Now this profit loss statement that we're dealing with right here is from last year. It already exists. It's our numbers from last year. And now what we're trying to do is, based on this information, project what we're going to do for the upcoming year. Now, if you notice down here at the bottom, there are a series of events or assumptions that we are making for the upcoming year, and that's how we're going to formulate our budget. So the first thing that we see is that our food sales will increase by 15%. Now, these right here is our food sales. And what we are about to do is we actually predict that this is going to increase by 15%. So we want to do is we want to make this cell, actually, I'll go ahead and move over. I'll use this one. This actually is now going to represent last year's number, and we're going to multiply it by 1.15. Now, since we are increasing it, that's where the 0.15 comes to play, because we're going to take the item itself and increase it by 15%. That's going to give us a calculation or a number of $853,012.50. This is what we expect our food sales to increase to for the upcoming year. So we actually took care of that one. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it to signify that we've taken care of it. Now the next thing that we expect is our beverage sales to increase by 12%. So we're going to take our beverage sales number and multiply by 1.12. The 0.12 represents the 12% increase. So now that we've done that, what we're going to do here is we are going to come up with our total budgeted revenue. And now we are doing the same procedure that we did what we did in chapter 1, as far as putting things together, adding up our revenues. So we're going to take our projected food sales plus our projected beverage sales and come up with a new total projected revenue of $1,086,532.50. Now we have taken care of this one, so I'll highlight that. Now the next thing is we are dealing with our food and beverage cost percentages will remain the same. So what we're doing is we're expecting not the dollar amounts, but the percentage, our food cost and beverage cost percentage. Now one of the things that I recommend is we need to figure out what this percentage is. So what we need to do is take our food cost of sales divided by our food sales, and that's going to give us roughly 29%. And we want to make sure we get it out to the 2 decimal places. So we're dealing with 29.26% for a food cost. We're going to do the same thing with our beverage. Now we're dealing with 27.90%. So these percentages we expect to remain intact for the upcoming year. So what we need to do is we need to use our projected numbers for the upcoming year with our percentages from last year. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our projected food revenue and multiply it by our food cost percentage from last year, and this is going to be our projected food cost in dollars for the upcoming year. Then we will do the same thing with our beverage. Okay, now what we have here is we expect our new total cost percentage, or total cost in dollars, to be $314,740.59. Now we're going to calculate our gross profit, and this is projected. And as you can see right here, we're seeing an increase in our projected gross profit. So we've actually taken care of step 3. Now we move to step 4. Fixed salaries and wages are anticipated to be $85,000 again. So what this lets us know is that our salary and wages from here, part of it is fixed. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and set aside the $85,000 that we're going to have. We're also looking at plus $12,000 additional dollars to account for raises. So what we're doing here is we are going to have to break this up into 2 different categories. So my recommendation is, what we're going to start dealing with is, we probably want to start inserting some spaces to account for some of the calculated adjustments we're going to make. So here we are dealing with fixed salaries and wages, and what we have here with this number is that's the $85,000 that we're dealing with there. And we also we're going to have variable salaries and wages. So what we're trying to do is account for those changes in the upcoming year. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to take this number and break it up. We know it's 85,000 because it says over here our fixed salaries and wages are anticipated to be $85,000 again. So that means that's what it was in the previous year. Our variable salaries and wages will be our salaries and wages minus our fixed amount, and this is what we were dealing with in variable amounts. So I'm going to highlight this just to make it a little bit easier for you to see the difference. And what this is these 2 numbers combined equal our total. And what we're dealing with here is we don't know what our total salaries and wages yet is going to be at this point, but what we do know is that our variable or our fixed salaries and wages will be this $85,000 plus $12,000 to account for raises. Okay. Now, one of the things that we do know is over here we've taken care of this part, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. Our variable salaries and wages will be 22% of food sales. So what we need to do right here is this is going to be 22% of our food sales. Food sales, which is our new projected number. So once we take 22% of our $853,012.50, which is our projected amount for the upcoming year, that will give us our new variable salaries and wages amount. So what we have here for salaries and wages total, it's going to be for salaries and wages total is going to be our variable salaries and wages plus our fixed. And this is our total salaries and wages. So what I'm going to do is extend this highlight just so you can see that we broke up our total salaries and wages into fixed and variable. Okay, so we'll go ahead and highlight this. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next step of calculating employee benefits. So if you see, employee benefits will remain at the same percentage. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next step of calculating employee benefits. So if you see, employee benefits will remain at the same percentage of salaries and wages. So what we need to do here is figure out what percentage employee benefits is of salaries and wages. So what we do is we take our employee benefits divided by salaries and wages, turn it into a percent, 2 decimal places. It represents 17.45%. So what we need to do here is we need to take this percentage, multiply it by our newly calculated salaries and wages to get our new employee benefits amount. Now here we're dealing with something that we didn't really deal with last time, which is the payroll taxes. So if you look, we'll highlight this. Our payroll taxes will remain at the same percentage of salaries and wages. So we do the same thing here. We take our payroll taxes divided by salaries and wages, and we see that we're paying roughly about 7%. So we come over here, and this is equal to that percentage by our salaries and wages, and there is our new payroll tax amount. Other controllable expenses will increase by $15,000. So we come here and we take last year's other controllable expense amount and we add our $15,000 to it. Now we need to go ahead and total up everything we have. Now be careful when you do this to make sure that you're only including the individual parts. Now there's two different ways you can do this. One, you can do the total salaries and wages plus employee benefits plus payroll taxes plus your other controllable expenses. Now another way you can do it is if you want to keep things separate, this can be equal to fixed salaries and wages, variable salaries and wages, employee benefits, payroll taxes, and other controllables. And you see that the dollar amount you get is the exact same. So I did that just to show you that it's the exact same amount, just to be careful not to do all of these, because these two numbers here combined equal that one. Okay, so after we do that, there's a couple of things we can do. We can actually calculate our subtotal. I'm actually just going to move into the very next portion of it. So we've taken care of this. Now our total occupancy cost will increase by $15,000. So, which should be evenly distributed between property insurance and property taxes. So there's three total categories with your rent and mortgage, property insurance, and property taxes. So each one of these will increase by $5,000. Go ahead and total these up. So now we have that total. Our interest and depreciation will remain the same. So we have this right here. I'm going to go ahead and put interest. It's going to equal the same amount. Our depreciation will be the same amount, and now we're going to go ahead and begin our calculations of everything. So what we do here is this number will equal our gross profit minus our total controllables, or minus our total controllables, less the total rent, property insurance, and property taxes, minus the interest, minus depreciation. And if you notice right here, with all of these adjustments, we're actually predicting that overall we're going to make less of a profit before taxes than last year. So even though our profit, our revenues overall went up, our cost structures went up. We had different cost structure changes here based on increases in salary and wages. Our bottom line is decreasing because we had a $5,000 increase in our rent and mortgage, our property insurance, and our property taxes. Each one increased by $5,000 for a $15,000 increase overall. So all of that results in a decrease in our earnings before taxes. So when you put together a budget, this is actually what we're doing. We're using last year's information combined with this year's projections to come up with a budget to help us formulate a way of thinking and a plan for the future. So this is how you should perform putting together a budget. Good luck on your homework assignment for budgeting.